Unexpected events. So you say or do something the child really doesn't expect, something silly, something funny, or something inaccurate. I do this a lot. Once a child has a really good labeling system, I start. It's kind of like teaching them a little bit about joking and teasing. So they may ask for a green crayon and I might give them a red, and then wait and see if they correct it. And if they don't, I provide them with the language. Oh, you want green, silly me. And then the next time I might do it again, and they've learned that language. So it helps create communication for situations that aren't great. It really gets them to be more vigilant auditorily, because they may catch you at a mistake and they think that's really funny. And it really helps them talk about what's going on and solve problems with their language. I do a lot of what I call sportscasting. I describe a lot of what the child has, sees, or does. Oh, you put the big block on the little block, things like that. So I start a lot of a lot of describing without a question, just a you, showing interest in my body and my face. So then they start to realize that there's that collaboration and there's that connection. I also will describe what I do somewhat. I do that a little less than describing what they do. But both of those things, remember, is joint attention with symbols. And I think a lot of times our children need someone skilled to provide them with more language when we can follow their joint attention or gather their joint attention to give them those symbols. So I think this is something that you can teach your parents and that we should do frequently. I also will use my voice or my gesture to emphasize the focus of comments. I found that a musical tone often gets a lot of attention. So sometimes if I don't get it the first time, I might just add a little bit of a melody to what I'm saying. Expansion is a way to do just that, to expand or correct language, but not in a corrective way. So I repeat what the child says, but I add a word or two extra. It's really helpful to start with yes or oh, because that shows you're listening and you're not correcting. So I might, if the child says block, I might say, yes, it's a blue block. Or if the child says a block, I might say, oh, want blue block. So I'm not correcting them. I'm recognizing what they say and providing them with just a little bit more. Typically, not always, incidental teaching steps goes from least prompt to most prompt. But the important thing really is just to be aware of your prompts. Remember, children with autism have the most prompt-dependent learning style known to man, I think. So you really need to be aware of how much prompting you're doing and what kinds of prompting. But typically you'd start with a natural prompt like what do you want, or looking expectantly, or saying it's time to paint. And then you'd go to a minimum prompt like, oh, is there something wrong? Oh, let's go ahead and paint. A medium prompt where you would request for partial information. Oh, there is something wrong. You don't want whatever, and maybe give them a fill in the blank kind of thing. And then a maximum prompt where you're filling in the whole thing for them. Oh, there is something wrong. Want paintbrush. So you've really given them the whole thing. So in conclusion, we've just kind of hit a smattering of early communication and development in this lecture. Certainly communication is so complex, it involves so many strategies, but we really got an overview of language development, an overview of characteristics of ASD and communication, and just touched on some early interventions. Please remember to consider augmentative and alternative communication sooner rather than later. I often see children 4 years of age with absolutely nothing to communicate with when, just a month of really good concentrated communication and they'd be doing some nice requests and protests. And please also remember to collaborate with your speech-language pathologist. I realize just like teachers, speech-language pathologists also have varying skill levels as it comes to children with autism, but they should have specialized knowledge in AAC, and they should have specialized knowledge in early intervention for children with autism. If they don't, then certainly there are many places to get information related to communication that I've made available for you on this course.